Hey guys, this is Matthew from Commercial Deal Junkie here. I'm a broker and investor based out of Southern California, buying investment property all over the country. I'm going to be going over the retail BRRRR, the retail buy, rents, rehab, refinance, repeat. So it's most commonly done on the residential or the multifamily side, but the same thing applies to the retail. I'm going to go over an example here. This is a property I just found online maybe 5 minutes before I started recording. So I'm going to run the numbers on this, see if it's a good burr, see if it's a buy. I grabbed something on the cheaper side so that you realize this can be done at any level. A lot of people think commercial and they think it's really high priced items, but this is a $450,000 property, 7,200 square feet. It's in Yukon, Oklahoma, which is right outside of Oklahoma City. Yeah. So first thing I like to do before I get into the numbers, I'm going to look over the property. Now, this is CoStar. It's not cheap, but it has all the information you need about the property in one place. You can find a lot of similar stuff on other websites, or you can get this data from like other websites and pull it all together. But I like CoStar because it puts all the data in one place. But for example, if you want to see population growth, you can just scroll down and see what's projected population growth rather than going to a bunch of other websites to figure that out. All right, so let's quickly go over the high level of the property. It's 211 South 4th Street, Maple Plaza in Yukon, Oklahoma, which is a suburb of Oklahoma City. Purchase price 450,000. That's 61 bucks square foot. The price per square foot to me is really important. Now, it's how I know I'm not overpaying on the property based on a cap rate. So sometimes properties that already have good income will have a high price per square foot because it means the property is already stabilized. You got to be able to find something undervalue, add value in order to do your BRRRR. Interestingly, this guy bought this property for 550,000 in 2019, so he's upside down on this. So I that may cause me to look into this a little deeper, why he bought it, what was the issue, and it does say 100% leased, but I'm guessing the rents are going to be pretty low for for it to only sell at 450. We'll go in here, we'll run the numbers on what market rent is, what this thing should be worth once you're done stabilizing it. The building doesn't look too bad, honestly. Definitely like a C minus look. Needs to be upgraded. If they all had like the Studio 66 sign, you painted the back, you redid the parking lot, you removed some of these blinds. I'm not a big fan on blinds on commercial property, but you really for like now, this is gonna be more important once I get into my underwriting, but I feel like for like 100 grand, I could do a lot to this building. I fix this up, clean, probably maybe change the name or keep the name, but upgrade the signage, get better cards in here, make it look better. That doesn't cost much. Definitely redo this parking lot. It's also a massive. Let's see how big this lot is. These are all the kind of questions that are bouncing on in my head before I even go in and run the numbers, and I will run the numbers. So 0.64 lot, like it's a decent sized lot for the size of the building which is good. That means you're going to have plenty of parking. There's 6.87 per thousand square foot parking ratio. So that means there's a lot of parking for the size of the building. It's great. It means when you're trying to lease the space out, it removes some of the restrictions. If you want to have, for example, a dance studio or a church or a coffee shop, the city will have different parking requirements. I have other buildings where it's three per thousand square foot. So that means I can't have like a restaurant. Restaurants may require more parking. So having that much, that's a strong parking ratio. 50 parking spots in the building per 72, 80 square foot building. That's plenty of parking. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead here and dive into the numbers real quick. I don't know what the current rents are, so I'm going to leave that as is. So here we have, this is my template. I'm going to make a copy. Now I'll put a link to this. I mean, it's free. I'll just put a link to the spreadsheet in the description below, just if you want to run your numbers. This is another spreadsheet that I purchased and then just edited it heavily for retail and industrial use. It was originally a multifamily one, and then I went in and kind of changed everything up and made it a more retail and industrial one. So underwriting. Okay, make a copy. Cool. So this is the one we're going to start playing with. So let's see here. Okay. So the first, I go to the scenarios tab and I'm trying to figure out. I want to fill this details out here. What the asking price is going to be? What's the square footage? It's going to give me a price per square foot. So let's dive into this. So the asking price, I'm just going to go in at asking. I always run my numbers assuming I'm going to pay asking, and then if it doesn't make sense, I'll see at what price it makes sense. Which I have a whole other video talking about this. Is that when it comes to commercial real estate, it's not, is this a good deal or is it a bad deal? It's at what price is this a good deal? So at 450, this might be a bad deal, but at 375, it's a good deal. So instead of just passing like, no, it's too expensive, I place an offer at 375. Now that's just hypothetical. So let's dive into here and see what this thing would be worth. 450. Well, so now I'm just kind of filling out details. What was it? 7,000 for no. What was it? 7,280. 7,280. 61. So I should be able to put 25% down. If it's fully occupied, I should be able to put 25% down. That would be 112,500 down payment. I don't like doing interest only loans, so I'm going to leave that as zero. And I'm going to assume it's going to cost me $100,000 between renovating the building and leasing the building up. Now, this is a huge if. This number is going to go in and be adjusted once I get the property under contract and I do a inspection report. But just based off looking at the photos, reading the description, which I realized I don't even think we read the description. We saw if it had one. Let's see here. Oh, there it is. Oh, this whole thing's vacant. Why are you lying to me? It says 100% occupied on one page, and this page it says completely vacant. I like that they're smaller units, but I hate that this thing is vacant. So that's a huge problem. What is this? Who are you lying to? Okay. So this being vacant kind of changes things for me. It'll be less likely I can get 25% down unless I'm going to do a hard money loan. So now I'm going to assume I'm going to be buying this with a hard money loan, which the only thing that affects is the interest rate at the bottom. So let's see. I'm still going to go in and run my numbers here. I'm going to put 25% down. I'm going to need probably more than 100,000 now because whenever units are vacant, especially if they've been vacant for a while, the costs tend to go up. City's got to do certificate of occupancies. The gas has been on off for like let's say a year, so now the gas company's got to come do inspections. When you first buy the property, insurance costs are higher when the property is vacant versus when it has tenants. So I always increase my estimated cost for stabilization and leasing, and I'm gonna have to pay leasing commissions for every single unit now. So I'm gonna increase this to 150. We'll see if the numbers still work. Oh, I wish. That means I'm anticipating I'm going to spend 150,000 on this. Now I could do the inspection, building's in good shape, and it could be less. I could go back down to 100, maybe even less, although I doubt it because the building's empty. But let's see here. It's a 1978 building, so yeah, there's probably going to be some work to be in there, plus leasing the whole building up. I feel comfortable at 150, but it's always a ballpark when you're doing your initial underwriting, what that repairs and leasing cost is going to be. Reserves, I mean, I typically do $2 per square foot. Some people do $1 a square foot. So it really depends on what your risk tolerance is. But I'm pretty comfortable at $2 a square foot, and then it drops after that. Once I pass 10,000 square feet, I drop it to 1.5 a square foot. Once I pass 20,000 square feet, I drop it to $1 a square foot. So this is the number you got to enter here. What rent are you going to be able to get on a price per square foot basis? So I'm going to grab this here, and I'm literally just going to type in search, that's the zip code, and I'm going to put retail for lease. And I'm looking for C-class retail in this market. I'm not going to compare it to this thing is newly built. I'm not going to go, oh, I can get 28 bucks a square foot. No, this is built in 2001. This is B-class retail. This is A-class retail. So I'm not comparing myself to any of these. I want a C class. Yeah, this one. This one's pretty cleaned up. It's a large shopping center, 13 bucks a square foot. This is also definitely a B class one. This is probably newly built. So I want to see now the good news is I'm not seeing a lot of C class here. That means here's a $10 a square foot. So that means if you're one of the only lower priced options, it's a lot easier to get your units rented. Here's this one, 14 to 18. Wow, that's it. All right, let's expand this criteria a little bit. Let's remove these boundaries and see what we're getting here. Uh, so I know it's in Yukon. I'm going to add in some of the surrounding neighborhoods. I want to be careful because this might be like a higher income neighborhood. Okay, this is a C-class building here, and they're trying to get 18. Now, keep in mind, this is what they're trying to get. This is not necessarily what they're able to. This would be a good comp here. 2,000 square feet, definitely a C-class build. They're trying to get 18 bucks a square foot, but that's gross. So that means the tenants pay, the landlord pays property taxes, insurance, common area maintenance. So let's see what CoStar thinks. The nice thing about CoStar is it'll actually tell you what they think you'll be able to rent this at, although it's not always accurate. So I wouldn't just take this at face value. But I use this in combination with looking at comps. So they think I'm going to be able to get 14 to 17 bucks a square foot. I'm seeing this comp is the closest comp here is at 18. I'm gonna go with 14 bucks a square foot. That means I feel like I'm gonna be able to rent this unit out for $14 a square foot, and I'm gonna assume that's gross, not triple net. Although if I'm able to get 14 triple net, that just means I'm it's gonna be worth more than I'm underwriting it. I like to do 5% vacancy. So I like doing side by side scenarios. So scenario one is 14 bucks a square foot, and then I'm gonna put so I do 5% vacancy, 1% loss to lease, bad debt, things like that. And one of them I'm gonna assume is triple net, which I always, triple nets are typical $3 a square foot. That means I'm gonna be collecting 101,920 in rents, plus the tenants have to pay an additional $21,840 in triple net. That's gonna cover my property taxes, my insurance, my common area maintenance. So here, if we go back to the tenants breakdown, if we look here, that means these tenants. So for example, let's look at this 1560. This tenant would be paying 1560 times 14. That's what they're going to be paying per year divided by 12. So that means their base rent is 1,820. Plus they have $3 per square foot in triple net. So on top of that base rent, they got to pay an additional $390 a month in triple net. So their total rent is going to be 2,100, 2,200 and change, whatever those two numbers are added together. So let's do it together. An easier way to do it is just add the base rent plus the triple nets together. So if it's 14 bucks triple net plus $3 or it's $14 base, $3 triple net, so that means this person at 520 square feet times 17 divided by 12. So this person's going to be paying $736 all in. That's base rent plus triple net. But back to the underwriting. So one of them, I'm going to assume I'm not collecting any of in scenario one. I'm assuming they're gross. The other one, I'm going to assume it's triple net. Okay. Now, when I'm initially running my numbers, I typically won't even have all the information to start deep diving these line item one by one. I don't know what insurance is going to be. I don't know what management fee is going to be. Well, I'll have an idea. I don't know what all of these are going to be, but I have an idea on approximately what all the operational expenditures are going to be. It's about 25% typically, which also accounts to about $3 a square foot. These are just ballpark numbers to figure out if this is something worth putting an offer on and really doing my due diligence, getting this thing under contract, paying for an inspection. I'll probably fly out there to look at it, really deep diving and seeing if this is going to be a good commercial retail burr. Okay. So that means I'm estimating I'm going to be paying about 23,951 in expenses. And then this one I'm estimating a 29K because it's triple net. So mostly reimbursing. Here I'm assuming I'm going to get out of that 29, I'm going to get 21,000 back from the tenants. This one is going to be 23, but I'm not getting any of this back from the tenants. So if we go down here, my interest rate. Now, here's the thing. Because the property's vacant, I'm probably going to be sitting at a very high interest rate. I'm probably going to have to buy this with hard money. So I'm going to do a 11% interest rate. And then because it is hard money, I'll probably have 12 months interest only. So that means for 12 months, these are the terms I'm used to getting for hard money. It'll be 12% interest only and 11% loan. Okay, let's see here. Now here's the big thing, cap rate. That means what do I believe the property will have an exit cap rate at? There's a couple ways for me to do this. Number one, I like to look at reporting. Let's see here. So no, not this. So Realtor, is it Realtor? Yeah, Realtor.com has a pretty good tool that'll give you cap rates and data for commercial real estate. So I want to see the Oklahoma City Metro, which is where this property is. You go to maps, you can see this property is right outside of Oklahoma City. And I don't discriminate against location. As long as the numbers work, I own stuff in Kansas, I own stuff in Florida, I own stuff in Ohio. So let's see here. This is the Oklahoma City data. Now let's go to retail. I'll put a link for this too, so you guys can see that as well. So the market cap rate is 7.9, 7.8. I don't, yeah, they're saying you can get 17 bucks a square foot. Now, what I realize is I take these numbers, and this is usually for B class. So it's because they're collecting data from the high end, the medium, and the low. So this tends to be, the average data. So if it's a C class property, I'll knock these down. If it's a B class property, I'll take them at face value. And again, I use this market rent as a suggestion compared to what I'm seeing in comps, compared to what I'm seeing at CoStar. I'm not just going to take this and plug it into the calculator. I think 14, what we entered into the calculator, is actually pretty fair. And then the market cap rate, 7.9. This is a C class property. So I'm going to add a whole point to this, and I'm going to run my numbers at a 9 cap. So I'm assuming when I'm done fixing this property up, I'm going to be able to exit at a 9% cap rate. 9, 9. Okay. So here we are. Property is going to be purchased for 450,000. 61 bucks square foot, 25% down. I'm gonna have to put 112,500 as a down payment, and I'm gonna need to put 150,000 into the prop. So that means my total cash to close. Oh, I gotta knock down my closing costs, but I'll take care of that in a moment. My total cash to close is gonna be, 280 plus closing costs, 280, 290. A safe number would say I need 300,000 for this project. I'm gonna rent it out at 14 bucks a square foot. I'm assuming it's gross. This is what the triple net number would look like. Once I'm done stabilizing this property, it'll be worth about 800 grand. Closer to a million if I'm able to get triple nets. So if I'm able to lease these out $14 a square foot, plus they pay the expenses as well, this thing will be close to a million. If not, if they're gross, if I get 14 bucks a square foot, but I still pay property taxes and insurance, maybe they just pay utilities or something, then it'll be closer to 800. Okay. Now, before I do this, let me fix some of this. These numbers are a little high because it's a smaller property. I'm likely not going to be paying that much in fees. This would probably be maybe 600. Attorney fees are probably zero on this. Travel costs 1,000. Yeah, it makes sense. Now, rule of thumb for closing costs is this is just something I use. I use about $3. Sorry, 3%. Many times it's usually closer to 2, but I'll run 3%. So yeah, 13,500. So it's pretty close. So if I'm just doing a rule of thumb, or I just want to quickly calculate how much closing costs should be, it's about 3% of the purchase price. If you're syndicating and doing things like that or raising money, it's going to be higher. You'll have more attorney costs. But I think 14,882 is pretty fair for what the closing costs will be. Now, here in my exit strategy, this is Burr. So I'm gonna assume a year 3 refinance, and we'll do a 6-year hold. That means I'm gonna expect to refinance the property in 3 years, and in 6 years probably sell it. Now, my interest rate's gonna be much lower on my refinance because it'll be stabilized. So it won't be a hard money on my refinance. So let's assume 7.25%. I'm very aggressive when I run my numbers. I'll probably, after stabilizing it, be closer to a 6.5 on current interest rates. I mean, it's January 2025, so that's probably I'd probably be closer to the high sixes, mid sixes, but I'm going to run it at 7.25. All right. So once you've entered all your numbers, there are 2 tabs I like to look at. I like to look at the returns tab and the P&L tab. But let's start with the returns tab. So forgive me, but another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to zero out the year one income. Since we're buying it vacant, this calculator is assuming as soon as we buy it, we're going to have this income. That's not the case. So I'm going to zero out year one income. So year one's actually going to be minus $23,000. That means year one, we're actually going to be losing $2,000 a month for property taxes, insurance, while we're number one fixing it up, and it's vacant. So we're eating all those costs. Okay. So make sure we're using scenario one. Yeah. Okay. So it's asking me which scenario do you want to use? Do you want to use scenario one, which is in this case without the CAM, or the or scenario two, which has the CAM reimbursements? We're going to go with scenario one, which is this one. Okay. So here we're saying year one, it's pretty much not good. There's no income coming in. There is there's something else I need to do. I'm not going to be syndicating this, so there's going to be no 80-20 split. And no asset matcher fee either. Okay, so on the if you just look at it from the numbers are looking pretty good. So we have an AAR, an average annual return of 20%, a total return of 100%, and an IRR of 19.66%. Let's dive into the actual numbers. Year one, not good. Year one, we're expecting to lose, we're expecting not to bring in any money. Year one. Year two is when things start stabilizing. So we should be getting about 31,000 in cash flow. The total project, like I said, it's going to cost about 300 grand. I think 300 grand is a fair number to estimate what this thing is going to cost. So out of 300,000 is the cash you're going to need to close. Year one, you're not getting any money back. We're stabilizing the property. We're filling it up with tenants. We're getting the units rented. Year two, cash on cash, you're getting 10%. Now you have the units are rented, but this is gross. You're still paying property taxes, insurance, common area maintenance. Forgive me while I toss this in and don't judge me. So these are gross rents. You're still paying property taxes, insurance, common area maintenance, but you're getting a 10% return on your money. Year three, this is the year of the refinance. You got an 11% return on your money from the cash flow, plus you got most of your cash back. So this is not an infinite cash on cash return, but you got most of your cash back. So you're going to refinance it. Let's see what the valuation is. So this is saying when you refinance the property, they're estimating an appraisal of 800,000 at a 9.3 cap rate. So this is actually, I think this is pretty fair. If anything, I think it'll probably end up appraising higher than this. 9.3 is a pretty high cap rate. So I think this is a fair appraisal here. It's going to come in at 800 grand, and we're going to take out 75% LTV. I need to make sure that that's not going to blow up the DSCR. And I hope there's a basic understanding here of some of the terms. If it's really going above your head, you may want to look into do some of the more underlying knowledge when it comes to commercial real estate. You want to learn what the DSCR constraints are, what's how to calculate what CAM is, what's price per square foot. So after I do my refinance, I'm still going to be at a 1.46 DSCR, which is good. So that means I won't have any issues refinancing. So that means if many times I run my numbers and it's going to drop the DSCR to 1.1, this is good. This means I'll still be cash flowing after I refinance. The closer this is to one, a one DSCR means everything that's coming in from your NOI is going out in your mortgage. You're not you're cash flowing zero. So the further it is from one, most lenders will require a 1.25. That means you need to be making 25% more on your NOI than your mortgage is requiring you to pay. 1.46 right after a refinance is actually pretty good. So that means I know I'm still going to be cash flowing after I refinance this thing. So that means in year three, when I refinance, I'm going to get 259,000 of the 293,000 I put in. So I'm getting most of my money back in year three when it's not quite an infinite burr, but I'm getting, what is this, 80%? I'm getting 88% of my initial capital returned in year three. And then I'll only have $34,000 left in this deal. on year three. So far, this is looking pretty good. The fact that I can, year one is where most of the work's going to be done. The property needs to be stabilized, it needs to be rented. I'm going to spend $150,000 on the property in year one, stabilizing it, getting it rented. Year two, I'm going to enjoy some cash flow. Year three, I'm going to enjoy some cash flow and refinance the property. Let's go back here. So year one, not a good year. Zero income. Year one, the focus is stabilizing the property. 12 months, I'm going to dump money into this, clean up the parking lot, clean up the facade. I'm going to improve all this signage. I'm going to paint the building. Now, this is too small for a deal I'm actually considering. This is just a property I grabbed out of nowhere that looked on the surface to be a good deal or had potential to be a good deal. So I decided to grab it and run the numbers on it. So yeah, I'm gonna clean up this parking lot. I'm gonna paint this building, improve all the signage for all of these tenants. I'm gonna improve this, definitely change these place cards out or leave them blank, put them as for rent place cards. I'm gonna clean this up, make sure it lights up bright, definitely get some lighting for the building. Also, yeah, this parking lot could improve the landscaping here, maybe get some rocks, really clean this building up. I'm gonna study the location in a minute, but I like to see first if the numbers make sense, and then I'm gonna go see if the location disqualifies, if it's a very low income neighborhood. But let's finish running the numbers real quick. I know we're getting a little long here, but let me go through this. Okay. So that means in year three, I'm expected that I'm gonna get 260,000 back from the 290 I put in. So I'll only have $34,000 left in the deal. Yeah. And then after that, I mean the cash on cash return really skyrockets because I only have $34,000 in the deal. So if I'm cash flowing 23,000 and I only have 33,000 in the deal, the cash on cash really starts that's yeah, that cash on cash really blows up year after year. So I'm making 70%, which is 23,960 divided by the remaining cash I have left. I'm making 70 between 70 and 80% before I exit. Now the other thing is once I exit, I'm going to get the remaining 33,000 owed to me left, which is the rest of the money from the amount I put in. Plus, I'm going to get 155,000 on top of that 34,000 that's left. Okay. So on the surface, this is a pretty good deal. The numbers work out. It's not a slam dunk, but it's almost an infinite cash on cash return. Almost an infinite cash on cash return. Now let's change the scenarios. Let's say I am able to get $3 a square foot triple net. Let's say I am. Okay. So that means I'm going to update this to scenario two. Oh, no, I'm going to update this to scenario two. That means I'm able to get 14 bucks a square foot plus $3 a square foot in triple net. Means my NOI is not 71,000, which is the gross rents, but with triple nets, my NOI will be 88,000. Now these are ballparks, and I'll deep dive this once I have the property under contract. This is just deciding whether or not I want to submit an LOI or I want to submit an offer. So that means once this thing stabilizes, it's going to be worth a little under $1 million. Okay. Once I go back to the return stat, this becomes an infinite cash on cash return. That means in year three, I not only get my 293,000 back that I invested in the property, but I'll also get $100,000 on top of it. And this will be tax free because it's a loan. I'm not selling the property where I got to pay taxes on 100,000 profit. No, it's a loan, so this is tax free income. And let's also go back and confirm the DSCR. It doesn't break the DSCR. Nope, we're still good on a DSCR perspective. So this is almost completely triple net. I still have some leakage here. I'm expecting 29,000 in costs with 21,000 in reimbursements. So I'm still estimating there's still going to be about 8 grand a year, a few $100 a month I'm going to have to pay. That's not going to be reimbursed by the tenants. And this becomes an infinite cash on cash return. But I don't like assuming good scenarios. I like to know, like, if things go well, what will happen. But I like to underwrite it pretty conservatively. I'm pretty confident I can get 14 bucks a square foot from the surface level research I've done here in this video. 5% vacancy, 1% loss to lease means, something goes wrong. I got to give the tenants, some credit because, there was a roof leak, there was something, and this is after stabilization, of course. Once I buy, vacancy is 100, but year one, I took that income down to zero year one. So I'm assuming this property's not going to make any money the first year. It shouldn't take me 12 months to stabilize this property. But if I stabilize it in 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, that last 4 months is just icing on the cake. So here we are. I don't like, so this is monthly. For those on the West Coast that deal in price per square foot per month, I'm going to be renting this out at $1.17 per square foot, which translates to $14 a square foot. And obviously, I'm going to have rent escalators. It's at 2%, but I usually put 3% or CPI, which tracks inflation. So as the more inflation is, the more I'm going to be able to increase rents on these leases. And these are going to be either 3 years or 5 year leases. I don't sign 1 year leases unless I'm desperate for a property. Okay, so let's go back and update this. I'm still assuming I'm going to be gross. Okay, now that we've ran the numbers, so far, I might actually be putting an LOI on this property. These numbers are better than I thought. I just need to study the location and make sure it's a good location. Yeah, 259,000 in the refinance in year 3. And all right, let's go back to CoStar. And this is why I love CoStar. CoStar, I can do all the my location homework from CoStar. Now, if you don't have a CoStar subscription because CoStar is expensive, you can still do location homework without CoStar, but you're gonna have to use multiple sites. You're gonna want to use, this one that I'll put in the description so you can see, how the location's doing, how the demand is, what the vacancy is, which is pretty important for that market. Now that they say vacancy is 5.4% for Q3 2024, I'm going to update my underwriting here. I'm going to make this 7. That's assuming one, I fill the building up, one, the building is stabilized. What are the over a longer hold period? What are the chances that the tenants are gonna leave or non-renew? So I updated that. That's gonna affect my number a little bit. Yeah, so that brings my that brings my refinance. I'm gonna get 247 instead of 250. Now it all depends. The lender, when they run their numbers, they're gonna slap a vacancy. Even if the property is 100% occupied, the lender will most likely slap a vacancy rate on the income to protect themselves from future potential vacancies. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead. First thing I like to see is what is the average income in the household. That's pretty good. My cutoff is 40,000, which is pretty low, but for retail, lower income doesn't hurt it as much as, for example, multifamily. Multifamily, I'll be stricter. I'll try to keep it at 50,000 or higher. But at 58,000, and then within the 3 mile radius, 75,000. So this is a higher income part of Oklahoma City Metro. Because I could see the average income in Oklahoma City on this here. So what is the average income in Oklahoma? The average, okay, so it's right around the average. This is higher than I thought, to be honest. I thought Oklahoma would be a lower income part of the nation. But yeah, 58,000, that's not bad. That's right below the US average income of 63. So this is, a pretty average part of Oklahoma City Metro. That doesn't disqualify it at all. I also make sure that the property is lower than the average price per square foot of the area, and in C class, it's almost always going to be the case. Still surprised this guy lost money on this deal. That's, I guess, because it's all vacant. Anyway, next thing I like to check traffic. I need to know how much people, especially for retail, I need to know how much people are driving on the streets directly adjacent to the property. Now you can go crazy and try to find that at online, but the nice thing about this is CoStar will have this information. Oh, I think this property just got disqualified because there's no traffic numbers, which means it's low, and my cutoff is 10,000. Even if the property was on here, that would disqualify it. It's at an intersection here. But yeah, this looks like to be a low traffic part. Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is just a snippet here, but this is clearly a February 2022. Yeah, there's just not enough traffic. Yeah, this property just got disqualified, unfortunately. There's not enough traffic on the street for me. I also like to see more dates and see what the property looked like in the past. That'll give me an idea on how long this has been vacant for. Damn, it looks like this thing was vacant for a while. All these units don't have signage going back This thing might have been vacant for a while, which means it's probably going to cost me a pretty penny to get this thing occupied. Likely, I'm going to have to get an electrical inspection. Once property's been vacant for a certain amount of time, it triggers a whole bunch of extra stuff with the city. So this is going to be a pass for me. What ended up ruining this deal for me is the traffic. I want at least 10,000 on the direct road, at least, preferably 15. So that did end up blowing up this deal for me. So I'm not going to end up putting an offer down on this deal, even though it's usually smaller than what I like to purchase. That's simply my process of now I probably should disqualify the location before I go in and start running all the numbers so that I don't waste my time. But for the purpose of this video, I still wanted to run the numbers and show you guys my process. Now, this one did end up throwing us for a loop because it was vacant. So I had to end up going with hard money, what my hard money financing is going to be. So I'll still be able to do 25% down, but it's going to be interest only and it's going to be a high interest rate. So ultimately, not the greatest deal for retail because the traffic's not great. So it's going to be harder to lease. And if one tenants do get in there, it'll most likely be office style tenants like an insurance company rather than like a smoke shop, simply because the traffic isn't really there to support a retailer, at least not from what I'm seeing here. See, if it was on Route 66, that would be different. Route 66 has 13, 14,000. This is probably all retail here. Yeah, so this is more of like a downtown area storefront retail. But if the retail plaza was on here, there's a lot more traffic here, a lot more cars going back and forth. So retailers would more likely be successful on this road here rather than in this tucked away in this. It looks like it's mostly residential around it, other than that here. I think CoStar, although this one's gray, but yeah, this looks like all residential here that's around it. This is behind the building here. Yeah, this is all residential. So yeah, it's gonna end up being a pass for me. Yeah, overall, I hope you guys enjoyed, you know, seeing how I run the numbers on deals, what deals I buy, what deals I don't buy. But like, subscribe, do all the algorithm stuff. Um, yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next one. I'm putting up more videos now, deals I've done, how I run the numbers on different deals, what disqualifies deals for me, and I the reason I'm doing retail and industrial versus multifamily is it's a lot easier to find good deals on the retail and the industrial side than it is on multifamily. Although I started buying multifamily, it's very hard right now because everyone wants to buy multifamily. So the good deals are disappearing or have multiple offers. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It's going to be a pass for me. Um, yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next one. How do you end these videos? Feel like an old person trying to end a Zoom call. It's